I take off whenever I need to, or if I get angry at my boss, I just leave. And they'll say, but Peter next to me does the same thing, or Paul, 4 cubicles down do the same thing. And that to me in and of itself can be misleading. Just because everybody else in your workspace can do that, if you had that same job, if you were an accountant at the VA and you blew up at your boss, but you go away, you had 8 different medical appointments in the week that sometimes were scheduled at the last minute, and you go do that. If you were an accountant in the private sector, that would not fly. You could not do that. So your skill set used in what I would call an open, competitive environment in the private sector, it would not allow you to keep the job, not the skill set, but the limitations you have. And so that's where I look at the VA. I consider it a sheltered workshop because they give everybody there lots of leeway. Now, going back to what you said, it's a facts found basis. Is the leeway they're giving you what you would get in a normal job, or is it above and beyond? And that's hard. We've won several cases with a veteran who was employed by the VA, because they're what Carrie was saying. The guy's working in the corner, or he's working from home in a job that really requires him to be in the office. But he's so bad off, he can't be around people, or he's just skipping so much work because of medical appointments, or using every last family leave and every last vacation time, and then more because of the illness. And so I look at the VA and I think they're a much more lenient employer than most employers are out there. And I think it's to the point to where even if other people around that VA employee are getting similar treatment, that doesn't rule it out, because the VA is giving, I think, lenient accommodations to almost everyone who works there.
You brought up some really good points. So, the accommodations, as a federal employee, you're entitled to reasonable accommodations. It's more, in my opinion, and I'm sure some others, at what point do those accommodations become unreasonable? But they still want to keep you. I mean, they don't have to let you go because you're asking for an accommodation that they don't consider reasonable. They have to give you reasonable accommodation. But I've seen tons of examples that would go beyond that level, where you might normally look at those and say those are unreasonable accommodations, but they're being made nonetheless to keep an otherwise good employee. So you're on a slippery slope. You're getting into grounds of distinct possibility of getting benefits based on TDIU there.